Article number 31 from the book Zukhruf al Qawl, Beautified, Decorated, Poisonous Speech by Shaykh Fahd al-Ajlan and Abdullah al-Ujairi. Article 31 is titled Ad-Deen Muta'ayish, Religious Coexistence. They say that Islam is open, Islam is accepting of others, Islam is peaceful, Islam is inclusive, Islam is all about love, Islam is against conflict and hostility, Islam means love for all and hatred for none. We are one humanity and we are a universal brotherhood. So these are slogans, these are claims, these are fancy terms that are thrown around. We respond and we say, what do you mean by these terms? What do you mean, we ask? We say to them that these are loaded, ambiguous terms. They require being unpacked for us to understand them correctly. Yes, Islam is love. Islam is against conflict. Islam wants peace. Islam is accepting of others. But there are details. These statements, they are loaded and ambiguous. They require unpacking. For us to understand them correctly, we have to understand what you mean by them. One can have a correct interpretation of these terms, of these slogans, or one can have an incorrect interpretation of these terms. If you mean that Muslims and non-Muslims, they've lived next to one another for centuries, they have traded with one another, that there's even been marriage between them, Islam treated the non-Muslims with justice and gave them their rights, if you mean this, then we definitely agree. But if you mean a liberal understanding of coexistence, where we are all one, there is no wala and bara, there is no ordering good and forbidding evil, where the Muslim woman gets married to the non-Muslim man, where I celebrate your religious festivals and you celebrate my religious festivals, then if this is what you mean, then this meaning is rejected. Also, subhanallah, Islam is better than needing these cheap terms to beautify it or to try to beautify it. Islam is the deen of justice, it's the deen of guidance, hidayah, it's the deen of falah, success, it's the deen of mercy, rahmah, it's the deen of salvation in both worlds. And these are much more important than those cheap terms that you throw around. We state to them that those who push the Islam is open and love for all slogans, many of them, they shy away or they turn away completely from the principles of al-wala wal-bara, loyalty to the believers and disavowal to the disbelievers, which is that we love what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves and we hate or dislike what Allah dislikes or hates. I love Allah and so I love what Allah loves and I dislike what Allah dislikes of actions and statements. I say, I am proud to be a believer, to be a mu'min, to be a Muslim, and I am proud of this identity. I have an affection and love to all fellow Muslims and believers. I have compassion in my heart for the non-Muslim, and I want them to embrace al-Islam. No issue. Here, with this understanding, it is faith and disbelief. This here is the criterion for loyalty and disavowal. It's not the skin color or nationality or ethnicity or the tribe. I don't draw the line in the sand based on those matters, but rather based on the matter of faith. Allah states in the Noble Quran in Surah Ali Imran verse number 28, لا يتخذ المؤمنون الكافرين أولياء من دون المؤمنين, that the believers should not take the disbelievers as guardians instead of the believers. Allah states in Surah Tawbah verse number 23, يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا تتخذوا آباءكم وإخوانكم أولياء إن استحبوا الكفر على الإيمان ومن يتولهم منكم فأولئك هم الظالمون. O believers, do not take your parents and your siblings as trusted allies, and if they choose disbelief over belief, and whosoever does so, then they are truly the wrongdoers. Allah states in Surah Ma'idah verse number 51, يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا لَا تَتَّخِذُوا الْيَهُودَ وَالنَّصَارَى أَوْلِيَاءَ بَعْضُهُمْ أَوْلِيَاءُ بَعْضٍ. That, O the believers, do not take the Jews nor the Christians as guardians, rather they are guardians of each other. And so, we are not talking about a natural love in your heart. Your father is a non-Muslim, your mother is a non-Muslim, your wife Samantha might be a non-Muslim and you love them. Your employer, very, very courteous to you, very kind to you, and so you have this natural love for them. We are not talking about that. There is no issue with that at all. Jayid? Just like how we are supposed to love our Muslim brothers and Muslim sisters and have this loyalty towards them. But if one of them, he's oppressed me, he's stolen from me, he slanders me, etc., so I dislike him. This is natural. This is not the wala and bara. This is not the alliance and disavowal that we are discussing here from a religious point of view. In terms of wala wal bara, we are talking about that you love Allah and you love what Allah loves of statements and actions. And you dislike what Allah dislikes of statements and actions. An example, you love money. You love money naturally, but you still will give charity because you know that Allah loves when you give charity. Even though you love the wealth, you still give the charity. You love your life, but you know that if you go out in jihad and you sacrifice your life for the sake of Allah, this is beloved to Allah, and thus you will do it. And so, people already do al-wala wal-bara, but they do it based on other criteria. They do it based on the country that they're from, based on their nationality, based on the party that they might be following, Republican Party or the ANC or whatever party it might be, or based on the race or their gang, etc. People are applying wala and bara in their lives, but it's not necessarily based upon the deen, it's based upon other factors, right? And then also, those who throw around these slogans, Islam is peace and Islam is all accepting of everyone, etc., etc., these loaded terms, so they find it uncomfortable when one talks about al-wala wal-bara. They find it uncomfortable to use the word kafir. They find it uncomfortable to talk about jihad, jahid. Some of them would say that we hate the kufr, but not the kafir. We hate the zulm, but not the zalim. That we hate the disbelief, but not the disbeliever. We hate the oppression, the action, but we don't hate the oppressor. The reality is this is not logical. It's like saying hate the oppression but not the oppressor. Hate the crime but not the criminal. Whereas we find the noble Quran is clear. فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ عَدُوٌّ لِلْكَافِرِينَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the enemy of the disbelievers. فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُحِبُّ الْكَافِرِينَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala dislikes, hates the kafirin. So the Quran is clear with regards to these matters, and our al-wala and bara, our loyalty and disavowal based upon the matter of the faith, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. The lesson being is that loaded, ambiguous, cheap terms require unpacking. What do you mean by them? What is the interpretation? Only then can we accept or reject. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. Barakallahu feekum.